Who's the biggest loser your son/daughter has dated? Kid tried to make me think he didn't know what a potato was. My sister dated a guy who lied about being a Navy SEAL. Apparently there is like a whole community of people who do that. Just go around unemployed living on, telling their SOs when they disappear for weeks at a time that they were deployed. It never made any sense to us, and she broke up with him for other reasons and gets really mad off if anyone mentions the relationship happened. He was a creepy dude who took advantage of her trusting nature and that she was at a low point in her life, and I regret not doing more to call him out on his obvious bullcrap. He's still in the area doing God knows what, probably trotting out the same crap to new women. I hope one day he gets his ass beat by a real Navy SEAL. My husband's cousin was married to a man who cheated on her for months and then moved his mistress into their home and tried to convince his wife that they could all be lovers together. He also got into the illegal pot dealing game after Colorado legalized weed. My really quite intelligent daughter once dated a lad who didn't know the difference between the sun and the moon. Not joking. Not my kid, but my brother. He dated this crazy possessive chick who once buried one of his shirts because another girl complimented him on it in front of her. She also totaled his car after lying and saying she had gotten her license back. She gave $400 to a fake iPhone scammer website Western Union because they are a legit company. I saw pictures of their warehouse and everything. I googled warehouse. The picture on their site was the first one that came up. She even paid $100 more to expedite through customs when the delivery didn't arrive when expected. And the piece de resistance, she killed his dog. She left Excedrin PM on the coffee table and he chewed up the bottle. By some miracle no pills got out and crisis averted. It was explained to her that the pills would be fatal to the dog. She bought another bottle and left it on the coffee table again. This time dog ate half the bottle and his kidneys failed. Sucks because he was the sweetest smartest dog I've ever known. TLDR, bro dated a girl that killed his car and dog. My brother is currently dating and engaged to one of the worst people I've ever met. She is manipulative and controlling. She likes to do crappy, mean things, and when confronted, will act completely innocent and play the victim. And she has on several occasions made up stories and lied for the sole purpose of causing chaos. She almost destroyed my other brother's marriage. His wife is her best friend and has all but ruined my brother's relationship with our mom and other sister. I really think she is entertained by the misery she causes. The best part of all of it? They are getting married in 11 days. Not my daughter but my niece. When she was 14 she met a dude on the internet who was 22 and from across the country. We were not happy. He came to visit and he was the weirdest dude I ever met. I was only 4 years older and tried to have conversations with him, but he was just monosyllabic. Exactly the kind of dude who you would expect to hit on 14-year-olds in anime forums on the internet. Of course we watched them like a hawk and they were never left alone together. I still admire my sister. She firmly put down the rules. No being alone together. No sleeping in the same room, etc. But never said anything against the relationship. The whole thing ended pretty much right after his visit. If my sister had forbidden it, I'm sure it would have gone on much longer. My sister is married to a guy who has 2 swastikas tattooed on his back. Nuff said. My sister is dating a guy who is a asshole to everyone he meets, but cries when you give it right back to him. He is also an enabler to her depression and anxiety. Instead of trying to encourage her to fix herself, he tells her that she doesn't need to, and he will do it for her. Obligatory not a son or daughter scenario, but my older brother dated a girl who pretended that she broke all of her bones in a car wreck. She put both of her arms in slings, put braces on her legs, and a travel pillow around her neck. I remember asking her about her back, if all of her bones were broken anyway, and she started to cry. Lol, they didn't last long. Son dated a girl who said she had a friend who needed a ride to the prom. I agreed. Day of the prom. She says, oh, he's in this town, in the next state. I left work at 10 AM. Drove 3 hours. Picked up this kid. Brought him home. He has no prom clothes. Not even a suit. Luckily, we are close enough in size that I can lend him one. I'll lend him suit, shirt, tie, buy him dress shoes, pay for haircut. We are late. So the pre-prom dinner my kid had planned is out the window. Pictures not possible because we don't have time. We get one decent snap. Guess who's in the center? Yep, out of state dude. Girlfriend ended up spending the entire prom with this dude. Apparently he was an ex. They go to an after party. My son is left behind. He gets his own ride home, but doesn't stop by to drop off my suit and tie. Later, we find out girlfriend and out of state dude had baby making session at some point during that night. Baby was formed. Who is the father? According to girlfriend, my son is. Complication, they never had sex. According to him, she would have gotten away with it to some degree, but had the bad judgment to tell friends that it was actually out of state dude. Fortunately, my son found out and broke it off with her. To be honest, I could have written all that off as youthful idiocy, but a few months into the pregnancy, she has the balls to come to our house and tell me that her parents were kicking her out and would it be okay if she moved into my finished basement apartment so her baby wouldn't be homeless. Like WTF. The end of the story is that out of state dude heard that he was the baby daddy and came back to bring her home with him. And as far as I know, they are still living in his parents' trailer. My sister dated a guy, let's call him Tom, who worked under my dad at the business he owns and runs. Now I'm not saying Tom was a loser, because worked for our family. My sister and I both work in similar positions and that's how they met. But there were a number of instances that just shouted, hey what's up, I'm Tom, and I'm a loser. For example, Tom seemed to never have any money, usually blaming things like his rent being too high or his car needing to be worked on. Due to this my sister ended up having to pay for the majority of the dates and dinners that they went on. In reality, he had spent most of his money on unnecessary toys like dirt bikes, guns, and modifications for his 1999 Honda Civic. His spending habits got so bad that his landlord threatened him with eviction. This tore my sister up, not because he was getting evicted, but because she knew that he was making enough money to never be in that type of situation. Anyway, Tom got the bright idea to ask her and my father for the rent money, $650, while they were out to dinner. My dad ended up helping him out so he wouldn't go homeless. But what he didn't know was that Tom had asked him for more money than what his rent was so he could go out and spend it on other things other than my sister. So yeah, he was a loser and I didn't like him much. I'm driving my daughter home and she says, oh, I forgot to tell Benjamin what house number we are. I'm a mite confused by this. I've heard about Benjamin before, but there was never any indication he was going to come over or anything. Me, why does Benjamin need to know our house number? Daughter, so he can sleep over. We are going to get married. At that point, I nearly drove off the road, but luckily we were almost home, and I drove into the driveway. So this Benjamin was engaged to my daughter, and I haven't even met him yet? Hadn't even heard she was dating? What absolute, absurd nonsense. So definitely this Benjamin guy, my daughter's for. By the way, I almost drove off the road because I was laughing so hard. While nothing compared to some of the stories here, it doesn't feel great to see my daughter move in with a high school dropout and take a break from college. I'm expecting any day now to hear that her savings that were supposed to be for college will be going to pay off his debt. Funny enough, every father of any girl I have ever dated thinks I'm a loser. It usually starts with something along the lines of I don't like your name, and usually goes downhill from there. My daughter once married a guy who chucked a rare steak at her boss window. My sister dated them all. My favorite was a guy who convinced her to have joint bank accounts and stole 6 months worth of pay from her. We didn't know until after the relationship. The dude was a major conman salesman type that had like 4 different get rich quick schemes while they dated. As nice as my brother-in-law is, he is pretty terrible in terms of job/goals/life ambitions. He hasn't worked a steady job for almost 10 years or so and is now pushing like 40. He had been a RUPS driver and either lost that job or was laid off or something, and since then, he has just done oddball things to kind of keep money in. But nothing has flourished or lasted long. He was going to be a singing coach. He was going to do lawn maintenance. And currently his next big venture is dog walk/sitting. Consequently, My sister works 3 jobs to keep their family comfortable and to support my niece. It wouldn't be so terrible if he did more stuff around the house. But after this past visit to their home, I don't think he does much of anything other than sit around and watch TV and maybe make dinner every once in a while. My dad has tried subtly talking to her about the situation, but she says she's happy with her life. But sometimes her tone says something else. It'll be back to find my judgmental ex's parents. I dated a lot of stupid, just plain dumb guys in high school. One of the worst mistakes was my boyfriend sophomore year told me he had lung cancer because he's been smoking cigarettes since he was 8. He wrote me like this weird journal/letter about it. I didn't believe him for a second, but continued dating him for another month or so. He's married with a kid now, so I'm pretty sure the cancer thing wasn't true. Mayo. If my parents used Reddit, they would probably mention my ex-boyfriend who I dated long distance online from 19 to 22. He lived with his parents, didn't want to get a job, smoked weed all day, and did mushrooms for clarity. Forced me to avoid talking to others, or even go out with my family to do things, because he would blow up my phone saying I was cheating due to his lousy ex-relationship he was cheated on during. He had a kid at 18 during a wasted one-night stand, and had to babysit her every week, while complaining about her grandmother, who was taking care of her, because the mother didn't want her. He didn't pay child support, so he had to guiltily take care of the kid at every beck and call of the grandmother. Lashed out at me constantly, and would starve himself for days to make me feel bad about literally anything that mildly bothered him. Generally needed a lot of freaking help that he refused to get. I was at a really low point in my life and thought I was worthless, and that he was the only one that could love me. I know my parents wouldn't get into my love affairs, but they were absolutely thrilled when I finally grew self-worth and got out of it. I had always pieced together information about him to them, because I knew they wouldn't approve. And every time I said more they held back, but were obviously thinking he was trash. I cringe extremely hard when I remember all of it. Blake, we took him into our home for a few months so he could save up some money. Our internet bill went through the roof. I think he played video games. Then one day, Independence Day, he dumped her, all while his clan from Texas was camping in our yard on the way to a music festival. I guess I should have keyed in when he mentioned he had moved multiple times. She says it was the guy that was a drug runner. I obviously didn't know about this, and I'm only being told because he's long gone from her life. If someone ever dated me, it would probably be me. Brother's girlfriend hit my English bulldog with a shovel because he was barking and it scared her as she showed up unexpectedly at my parents' house around 1 AM. He is still with her because she's lonely and has no friends or family, maybe because she's a psychotic bitch. My sister dated this douchebag. He lived in a house his dad owned, and she moved in with him. He stayed at home slinging cocaine. She held respectable jobs. He was a general craphead, stole drugs from his mom and such. They bought a crappy Firebird together with her money, but he titled it in his name. When she finally left him, my father and I drove the Firebird and parked it in our garage, covered all the windows looking in. He would call us every day and rant to us how he was going to call the cops and or kick our ass. After telling a sob story to the DMV, we ended up getting the same to the supervisor, who transferred the title to my sister's name so she could sell the heap of junk and recoup some of her money. My son's girlfriend. She's two-timed on him with one of his friends. Can barely read or write and is unemployed. My wife keeps saying they're in 3rd grade. What do you expect? But I think she's going easy on her. One of my friends brought her new boyfriend to our weekly church youth group meetup. He openly bragged about how he could manipulate anyone into doing whatever he wanted and tried to dominate all of the other guys in the room by proving how much smarter, stronger, more athletic he was. She pulled the plug pretty quickly. How many other guys came here to see if any of the descriptions sound like them? Not me, that's for sure. My cousin once dated a guy named Steve. That's all the information you need. My mom once dated my boss. She was older. It took me a while to get over it, but I finally did when I saw how hard he tried for her. He then dumped her at a birthday lunch that he planned with balloons and everything at a nice Italian place once he learned the age difference. My dad doesn't Reddit, but my parents hated my ex. We met when we were 16 and were on and off for 4 years. He constantly cheated on me and was just a crap person. I ended up pregnant at 18 and I worked through most of pregnancy while he didn't do crap. I got him a job, but he didn't keep it. I broke up with him when my daughter was 8 months old, about 5 months after my mom passed away. He hasn't been in mine or my daughter's life for about 4 years. His loss. She's amazing. My sister dated a guy who said he has a Reddit account. My daughter dated a guy who was a crappy, lying, lazy, abusive, gaslighting asshole. Besides that, he 1. Dropped out of high school at 14. 2. Never attempted to get a JED/diploma equivalency. 3. Had more than one conviction for public intoxication/underage drinking/wasted driving, which left him 4. Unable to get a job for approximately 18 months of the about 2 years they were together. 5. Got fired from Walmart after only working 2 weeks. For missing work because his kid supposedly was victim of an abduction attempt. Turns out the kid made it up. 6. Smoked weed in her apartment bathroom, knowing that if my daughter failed a drug screen her career would be ruined. 7. Had his 2 kids every other weekend, but spent the entire time with headphones on, gaming, meaning my daughter had to watch his kids or they'd destroy her apartment. 8. Would only eat corn or potatoes, hamburgers or chicken fingers, or pizza, but fast food was a-okay. 9. Never picked up after himself, so every horizontal surface was covered in half-wasted pop cans, fast food wrappers, cups and bags, dirty plates, moldy food. Daughter is an RN and worked 12-hour shifts, which is sort of an excuse. 10. Punched a hole in her apartment wall. 11. Held a gun to his own head, then laughed at her for taking him seriously. 12. Constantly accused her of cheating, so she had to unfriend all males on her Facebook, including her father. 13. Threatened to leave when her anxiety and depression had her sleeping anytime she wasn't at work. And 14. When she finally took him up on his bluff, it was during a terrifying food throwing, soda hurling, furniture smashing temper tantrum that had her grab her cats from under the bed and come to my house 50 miles away. I could go on, but remembering all that is turning my stomach. In cleaning her apartment afterward, we had to wash the walls from where he had done a Hollywood style sweep of the coffee tabletop, spraying Dr. Pepper all over the carpet, TV and stand, wall, and canvas art, all the way to the ceiling. Then for good measure he smashed the coffee table. He was a complete tool, and with the help of a therapist she is finally getting back to the funny, intelligent, confident girl she was before he messed her head up. I'm thrilled I don't have to dread that phone call, you know, the one where she was calling to say he'd beaten her. There would have been a long line of people wanting to pull his bowel strings up through his throat. Believe me, or worse, one from a coroner. My sister was in an emotionally abusive, on the verge of physically abusive, relationship with a narcissist. She got pregnant by him, and upon the birth of their daughter they found out she had severe medical complications. I won't go into too much detail, but they had to choose to let her pass, or put her through multiple surgeries and treatments that she possibly wouldn't survive or make it out of the hospital from. This nut job had her so brainwashed that he convinced her to let their daughter pass away without trying to save her, because he didn't want to deal with it. He even slept on the couch in the hospital room, while my sister stayed up all night holding her as she passed away. My niece passed away less than 2 weeks after she was born. Within a week of her passing, he tells my sister she is fat and needs to lose weight, among other terrible things, and goes out using the fact that his daughter just died to draw pity from someone in order to get laid. I'm thoroughly convinced that this pose never gave a crap about his daughter or my sister. Thankfully she found the strength to leave him, but still has extreme guilt over the entire situation. My kid dated this narc jerk a couple years back. He was with her friend first, and told everyone this girl was completely bat-crap crazy, and he was trying to help her. What we didn't know was he was driving her crazy, and she got a lot better after they broke up. He gets with my daughter, who is no longer talking to said friend, because said friend attacked my daughter after being egged on by this guy. He proceeds to gaslight the heck out of her, cheat on her, blame her for literally everything, and make her feel not good enough for anyone, let alone him. She was in a really dark place and he knew it. They break up, and years later he still finds a way to get a hold of her to tear her down. If I could run this jerk over, I so freaking would. Obligatory not my son/daughter, but my fiance's ex was a keeper. Classic high school bad boy that went nowhere. Dude's a piece of garbage. Extremely manipulative. She had a kid with him in high school. He's 4 years older than her, so was 20 with a 16-year-old. Real winner. An ex stabbed me in the thigh with an X-Acto blade once. Full blade in the thigh. I could see my muscles working and had to pick out the pan fibers. Wanna know why he stabbed me in the thigh? Well, I have 2 toes on each foot that are webbed. He wanted me to let him cut those instead. I like threads like these for giving me perspective. Not that they're an excuse to be a lazy slob, but to prevent myself from doing irrational things like internally calling myself a lazy slob because I don't have the discipline to do a PhD. I can answer this for my parents. He was a fricked up kid with fricked up parents who didn't give a crap about him. It wasn't his fault in the beginning, but it definitely was his fault later. He was pretty heavy into drugs and treated me like crap. My parents let him and his friend move in with us when I was 16 because his parents had put him out in the street. Ran up 100k in credit card debt in my parents' names by stealing the card numbers while they were sleeping. We didn't know it until the cards kept getting higher and higher since he'd used them for things we would shop for/at. He even had forks cards made so they'd swipe. He beat the crap out of me one day with a table leg he broke off. I was 18. He was massively high on Xanax and had a case of drink in him. They even paid 5k to get him moved to another state because he wanted to go, and they saw it as an out for me. He ended up dying last year by being fricked up and walking on a highway and getting hit by a car. I felt bad for his kids because they only knew the good in him since they're so young, but honestly, he hadn't changed one bit, so I breathed a little sigh of relief for his girlfriend and the kids. Till that there are apparently a lot of people impersonating Navy SEALs. Sadly, it's always been me who is the loser, dating girls so I wasn't alone, and manipulating them to keep them from figuring out I was a piece of crap and they could easily do better. It took getting diagnosed with depression and getting on meds and therapy to see how fricked up I was. When I started dating the current girl I'm with, I told her, her best friend and her mom, how I used to be and asked them to call me out if they see me doing it again. So much it is habit that I don't even know what's unhealthy until I'm told. Also, my parents never gave me a good example or a healthy relationship, so I'm figuring it out as I go. How? My daughter is 12. You have all given me a really crappy outlook on the next several years. Damn it. Probably me. I once had a first date with this guy who was sweet but clingy and texting every second. Later on he goes on about future between us and calling me his girlfriend, and I ended the date and he threatened to cut himself and blow up my phone constantly. He scared me so much I blocked his number. Just scrolling through to see if any of my ex's parents wrote about me. My daughter is only in 6th grade and last year her boyfriend brought a BB gun to school in his backpack and showed a bunch of kids and got expelled. When I was in university, my father said to me about the girl I was dating that she was a lost cause and that she'd dump me as soon as something better came along. This was the only time he ever said anything about any of my girlfriends. Sure enough, a few weeks later he was right and she dumped me. I asked my father what made him say that, sort of wanting some sage knowledge of how he knew. He said that her family was so rich that you couldn't spend all the money her family had amassed. I knew that part, and they were frick off rich, and what would she want to do with a upper middle class guy like me? It wasn't because she was hot as heck, but it was money. My dad said that her parents liked me better than any of her other previous boyfriends. I knew that part, and I still am in contact with her mother on a social basis. Sure, I was sort of smart and ambitious, but to her I wasn't eye candy, didn't drive the right car, and didn't dress the part. He just wanted to ease the impact a bit by warning me. He did end it with saying that she'll most likely never be satisfied with any of her relationships because of her attitude towards other people she sees as below her, and how quickly she would get bored with anyone in a relationship with her. 25 years down the road, her mother emails me to see how things are with me and my family and gets my opinion on some business dealings the family is always pursuing so they can diversify and grow. I helped the parents, when I was living in China, audit and check a bunch of factories in Asia they were buying and gave them my opinion. Her daughter married, had 2 daughters, and a really bad divorce about 10 or 12 years ago when her husband left her. It was quite public as she was a public figure at the time, all because of the businesses she ventured into. Last time I asked about her, in talking to her mother, she hasn't found the right man after going through 3 or 4 and is going more low profile versus public figure according to her mother. Her mother still jokingly mentions about me being the one that got away. They regret not hiring me as an administrator. And the granddaughter's having a part-time mother and no father. Checking the internet, she has since switched over to more philanthropic pursuits in her business dealings. Is quite successful in her own right as an entrepreneur. Lots of seed money will help. But still divorced, single, and probably too busy for anyone else in her orbit. I tell my friends about it. They all take a look at the pictures I had when I was going out with her and look at her pics now, and since she is Asian, she hasn't aged much, and they say that I'm probably the loser in this one. Her first boyfriend she'll probably have in the next 3-4 years when she's old enough. Never met him, and she probably hasn't either, but he's a loser. I'm the son/daughter. I dated a girl who didn't know how to tie her shoes, or write in cursive or use a can opener. She thought the vag was on the front, like lower stomach, had monuments of pubes, and never bothered to wash/at least look apparently. She was 18 at the time. My friend dated a guy who was severely overweight and depressed. He's now a trainer at a gym, and they have a really healthy, happy family. You said biggest loser, so? Okay. So I can answer this for both of my parents, since they don't use Reddit. At 15 I started dating an 18-year-old boy named John. He and his even worse mom lived in someone's hallway. That's right, the 2 of them, on a twin mattress, in a hallway, together. They both refused to get jobs, but he did have a throwaway phone. Since I was 15 I wanted to text/call him, so I paid to put minutes on his phone every week, with my lunch money. Yeah, we went boating with my grandparents and he tried to have sex with me on their boat. It was a fishing boat, and only about 10 feet long. So he tried to have sex within 10 feet of my grandparents and baby brother, in their line of sight. We went to a sporting event for my baby brother, and he made me go outside and tried to have sex with me on a public picnic table. He would beg me for money to feed him and his mother. Then, when I tried to break up with him, he told me no. He wasn't allowing the breakup. I told him I was serious, and then behaved as if we were broken up anyway. So when I moved on he told everyone I cheated on him, then stalked my new boyfriend. Once he realized it was actually over, he and his mom called me non-stop one night saying they wanted his hoodie back. I said I would bring it to them the next day, but that wasn't good enough. They needed it right then. So they said they were going to come to my house and get it at 3 AM. I told them no, and he and his mom left a voicemail on my phone saying they were on their way and were going to beat me up over stealing this hoodie. I was a minor, he was 18, and she was over 40, so I called the cops.